In this video, we'll show how to assemble an L-shaped bed. So we're going to mechanically connect one bed to another. If you haven't watched the basic bed assembly video, watch that first. We have taken one of the long panels, we put both corner pieces on it, and we put the wood brackets on that we can right now because we're going to add wood to this. The next thing we'll want to do is set this panel aside, and we'll start assembling the other side. We've set our other long panel up here. We've attached the corner on one end of the panel. We put the wood support bracket on also. And now for this end, we're going to set the things up here that we need to attach first, and I'll show you what that'll be. So this is going to get a corner. And we have another corner going that way. We'll have a corner there. And finally, we'll have our panel. First, we'll need to bolt this corner to this panel. Then we can assemble. I'm going to flip this panel over. We'll match the corner piece up with the panel. We'll tighten that bolt. We'll check our other end. It's good. Tighten that, and then we'll tighten our other two. So this is what we have. Our top panel, our short panel. We've connected the corner onto it. Now, we're going to put bolts through this panel, through this corner, through this corner, through this panel. So first, we'll get one lined up on this end, and then we'll move to our other end and get one put in. We're going to put the nuts on finger tight, just finger tight. So you can see here that we have a gap in here, and that's because we're sitting on two corner pieces down there, and then we have our head of our carriage bolt right here. Now if we were to put our bolt in and tighten that down, we're going to bend that a little bit. If you do not shim this, this is fine to tighten that like that, but we include these shims. First, put your bolt in, and then slide your shim in place. And now it can be finger tightened, and we'll do the same thing with the other side. Now with all of our bolts in, we're going to even up all the panels and corner pieces and tighten. And with everything lined up on this side, we'll tighten it. Now we'll come back over here, make sure everything's lined up, and tighten. We'll check the other end. And then after your end bolts are tight, tighten your center ones. Here's the first panel we assembled, and then our special panel. Now all that's left to do is put a short panel in here and connect them, and put a short panel in here and connect them. When we do, we're going to go ahead and add our wood support brackets here and here, and we'll eventually add one here when we bring the other bed in. All right, we'll start at the bottom. We'll tighten that one first to make sure it's against the ground, and then we'll come up to the top. We'll get everything lined up, and we'll pull that panel up just a hair if it's not matching the corner piece. We'll tighten it. Tighten your center nuts. Now we have this panel attached with our wood bracket. We'll do the same here, and we'll do the exact same on that end. Now that we have everything assembled, let's recap what we did. We built one of the long panels, set it aside, started to build the other long panel, and we added this section from the other bed we're going to be connecting. So this bed is ready to be moved in place now. You can pick this up, set it in place. Most of the assembly's been done on level ground. Once you get the bed set in place, next we're going to bring the other bed up to it. Now we'll make our connections here and here, and we're going to add a wood support bracket here. All right, I come over here and I put 4 bolts and 4 nuts in to secure this. And our last connection to make is on this side. So I'm going to start with the bottom bolt. When you're assembling this in place, refer to the bed leveling video. We use pavers under the corners. I'm on a concrete floor. The floor is pretty flat, but when you assemble this on an uneven surface, this may not even be touching the ground. You know, you may be touching here and here. This is very rigid. So after you get it assembled and place it somewhere, you're going to see where all your gaps are on the ground. Now we're going to add a wood support bracket here in the corner. So as I'm putting bolts in this, I notice that it's trying to pinch right here because the floor is uneven. So I'm going to slide a wrench under here to get this lined up. Put the last bolt in and we'll tighten. I'm going to line the bottom up. You can see we still have our wrench under there. And then I'll come up to the top, get it tightened, and then do our 2 middle bolts. The reason we save the middle bolts for last to tighten them is when you tighten the bottom, when you're setting that one in place, and then we're going to pull this panel up or push it down, if we had the 2 middle bolts tightened, it would be much harder to push down or raise up. We're going to take the wrench out because I need it now. It's still hovering there. Now that we've got the bed set in place, it's leveled, we're getting ready to put the wood top on, and then we'll fill it with some soil. First, we need to put the soil blockers in. The soil blockers, when they go in, they just slide in place. And when they slide in place, it looks like this. I'm going to hold it upright and let it fall into place. You can see how this now blocks these from any soil leaving the bed. We provide measurements for the wood, but I'm going to show you. You can figure your own wood dimensions, especially if you build something extravagant. The way this is designed, we use 2x6 lumber. And if you'll put a tape measure on the end of that wood support bracket and come all the way over to this one, you come up with 48.5 inches. Now this is a 42-inch bed, but these stick out about 3 inches. We want the wood to overhang these brackets by a 1/2 inch. So we need a 1/2 inch on this side and a 1/2 inch on that side, which is an inch. So our 48.5 becomes 49.5. Now if we take this one, we measure all the way down, we're at 90.5 inches. That means we need a piece that's 91.5 inches. So this would be one, that's 49.5. But what do we do here? This is going to be one where the miter joints are parallel with one another. And so how would we measure that? First, the piece of wood would look like this. But how do we measure for that piece of wood? So in this scenario, we're going to measure from the outside edge of the wood support bracket to the inside edge of the panel. When we take that measurement, we have 45.25. We want the wood to extend past this point 1 3/4 inches. And so we're going to add 1 3/4 to 45.25. That gets us to 46, 47 inches. But remember down there, we want to hang over a 1/2 inch. So that's going to be 47.5 inches. If we look at the computer model of this, we can see that I want to measure from the end of here of this wood support bracket to the metal right back here. And at 1 3/4 inches from here to here, we're overhanging by 1 3/4 inches. That's why we need to add 1 3/4 inches to our overall measurement plus a 1/2 inch so we overhang here. So let's hide this section of wood And when I measure for the wood, I want to go from the end of the support bracket to the inside of the panel. And when I do, that measurement is 45 1/4. Then we add our 1 3/4 inches, which gets us to 47 inches. And then we add our 1/2 inch on this side, which brings us to 47 1/2. And so if we look at the piece of wood we're going to be cutting, this is what it'll look like. So we can see on this single bracket, we're going to use this hole for this board, and we'll use this hole for this board. So once we slide them into position and we get everything else, all the other boards on there, we'll start putting our corner covers on. Once you get all your pieces on, then you can start putting your corner covers on, making sure your ends match up. That's going to get all your wood square to those corner covers. Then you can position your whole frame on here and put your screws up from the bottom. Here my son Caden is helping assemble the bed. This is a unique bed because we're going to add a fish pond to it. We simply put a pond liner in the bed and filled with water and added some floating plants. In this picture, you can see the solar panel mounted above the center bed to provide shade and to provide power for the pump for the fish.